Yeah, hi, welcome back to the channel. I was just planning a holiday. So people have asked me to do one of these two movies that I'm going to do today for a little while since I showed the cover of the Blu-ray edition that came out. And so I had to find another movie to match up with it. Something similar in theme, something a little bit different, something, in this case, not in the English language, but still a lot of fun to watch. The first one is from 1969. Directed by Basil Dearden, The Assassination Bureau. Then I had to find another movie to match up with it, so I went to 2010 and looked in the French movie vault of mine. I found a Luc Besson movie that fit the bill. The Extraordinary Adventures of Adele Blanc-Sec, starring Louise, Bourgoin and Mathieu Almaric. Really interesting little film based on a comics book series in French, but a lot of fun. So how have you been? We're heading up for a federal election Saturday week, and things are getting a bit crazy around here. Being a political wonk, I'm looking at it all and I'm kind of absorbing tons of data, but also there are aspects of it that are a little bit rough. So escapism is just what I need at the moment, and that's what these two movies deliver in spades. You can probably say that they're both kind of sort of steampunk, or at least semi-steampunk movies, and that's hard to say. I like anachronisms in films, and I particularly like deliberate anachronisms in films. Accidental ones can piss me off, but The Extraordinary Adventures of Adele Blanc-Sec has a bunch of different anachronisms in there. I'm going to leave them for you to find if you want to, but it's a good, solid little adventure. Adele, played by Louise Bourgoin, is an adventuress. She's a journalist, she's an adventuress. She has a book out about her adventures finding yetis in the Himalayas. And she travels to Egypt to find the mummies of Ramses II and his entourage, which she does. Meanwhile, her arch enemy, played by Mathieu Almaric, under some very heavy and very interesting makeup, comes up against her, and she's got a kind of Indiana Jones her way out of the situation. The escape isn't particularly realistic, but it's not supposed to be. This movie is based on a comic book series by Jacques Tardi, not to be mistaken for Jacques Tati, totally different guy. And it's kind of episodic because Luc Besson has several different plot threads which are based on different graphic novels in the series, so it kind of doesn't quite gel together. And there's a bit of an implication that the movie might have been part of a series, but given the fact that it's been 12 years since the film came out, and Luc Besson is now persona non grata in many, many places, it's probably not likely that it will happen unless it's done on a streaming series or something like that. Louise Bourgoin is great as Adele Blanc-Sec.
C'est les deux hommes dont je vous ai parlé.
Une petite tasse de thé avant le grand saut?
J'ai une tête à boire du thé.
She's bold, she smokes, she drinks. She's surrounded by a bunch of men who are totally hopeless. There's a policeman called Caproni who is kind of really dumb and laughs at his own jokes. There's a unrealistic looking big game hunter. There's a young guy called Andre who works at the Botanical Gardens who is enamored of her and sends her love letters while she's away on her travels. And she's got a few things to deal with. First off, while she was away in Egypt, a 136 million year old pterodactyl egg has hatched in Paris and is terrorizing the city. It attacks a car which has a very important politician in it, along with a girl from the Moulin Rouge, and it has attacked a number of other things, including the president of France's dog, a little Scotty Terrier called Nelson. And Adele goes on a mission to have whoever resurrected the pterodactyl to resurrect Ramses II and his entourage, so that she can get the medical expertise of ancient Egypt to help her with her sister, who is in a very unusual coma. Her sister Agatha was playing tennis with Adele 5 years ago, and Adele hit her in the head with a tennis ball while playing, and she fell backwards onto one of her hat pins, which pierced her skull from the back to there and left her in a coma. So Adele wants this ancient Egyptian medicine to cure her sister. Meanwhile, the pterodactyl is terrorizing Paris, and she finds out that the person who can resurrect these Egyptian experts in medicine is currently sitting in jail awaiting execution by guillotine. So there's a whole series of amusing incidents where she tries to break this guy out of jail unsuccessfully, one or two of which owe a little bit to Francois Truffaut's The Bride Wore Black. So there's lots of little bits of kind of cultural referencing here, most of which I didn't get. There's a little bit where she's trying to get the pterodactyl to let her sit on its back when it flies off so that she can rescue this guy from the prison, which directly references a very famous cabaret number by Zizi Jean-Mer. But yeah, I'm getting into the long grass when I'm talking about that, but it's a lot of fun, and it doesn't matter if you don't get a lot of these references, but the movie's a lot of fun. Her arch enemy is played by Mathieu, who you might remember was the evil villain in Quantum of Solace. He's unrecognisable in this. He's wearing incredibly heavy makeup to make him look ugly as a jar full of smashed arseholes. But it works in the context of the movie. The character's designed to look like it did in the comic book, so that's kind of cool too. Luc Besson does a really great thing in this movie too. He evokes 1912 Paris wonderfully. The streetscapes and the buildings and the production design and the interiors and the set design, the whole mise en scène is done really well. It looks like a movie that was made for a lot more money than it was made for. He uses some computer effects to generate this illusion of being in Paris at the time, but Paris, fortunately, has retained a lot of those buildings, so it was a little bit easier than it might have been otherwise. There's a little bit of a funny joke too when the resurrected Ramses II takes a look at the Louvre and points to it and saying, it'd be really nice with a pyramid in front of it. So, as I said, it's a very light movie. It's very episodic. It ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, not literally but figuratively, which was probably intended to generate sequels, which never occurred. But if you're in the mood for something a bit light and you can find a copy of it, this is a Madman DVD from about 10 years ago. This one's a lot of fun. As I said, you've got to find a copy of it. If I can find a copy on Amazon, I'll post a link to it in the show notes, and you can pick it up from there. But if you're into steampunk, if you're into kind of adventure comedies, you could do worse than this one. It really is a lot of fun. The subtitles are quite good and quite clear. The characters are interesting. The mummy Patmosis, who becomes a friend to Adele Blanc-Sec, is a charming gentleman, even though he does look like he's been smoked in a smoker for about 25 years. But again, it's a light movie, it's a comedy, and it's one that I'm quite fond of. I think it's one of the less known Luc Besson films, and for my money, it's entertaining in the same way that a movie like The Fifth Element's entertaining. And even Valerian, I liked Valerian a lot, though a lot of people didn't. But this one, check it out if you can. Nice little bit of steampunk and a lot of fun. That brings us to the Assassination Bureau Limited. This is the imprint version that I mentioned a few episodes ago. And it's a lot of fun. Oliver Reed playing Ivan Dragomilov, the head of a business called the Assassination Bureau Limited, whose job it is to do assassinations. They kind of evaluate whether the person deserves assassinating first, but Dragomilov has decided that he wants to clear the decks of his organisation because their moral compass has drifted over the years. His father founded the business, and there are a whole bunch of different regional directors of it. Kurt Jürgens plays the German headquarters guy. Philippe Noiret plays the French head of it. And there's a Swiss one played by Warren Mitchell. Whole bunch of really interesting character actors played. Clive Revel plays the Italian one. Assistant chairperson is played by none other than Telly Savalas, with a curly mustache, which is kind of cool. Now, I've actually got a bit more than just this for this movie. I've got half a dozen lobby cards that I picked up in a job lot a while back, and I'll quickly show them to you before I talk about the movie. There's the first one, and the angle's always bad, so sorry about that. There's Diana Rigg and Oliver Reed. Diana Rigg plays a young woman called Sonia Winter, who, like Adele Blanc-Sec, is a journalist and is investigating the Assassination Bureau Limited. There's Diana Rigg in her undies with a couple of gendarmes. Diana Rigg and Oliver Reed escaping from a bordello, as you do. Diana Rigg's character in Italy, trying to find out where the bomb is hidden. And there's Clive Revel with his beautiful and treacherous wife in the movie, who is not trustworthy at all. And there is Oliver Reed's Dragomiloff with the untrustworthy wife. I think that's a lot. Have I lost count? Yep, that's it. So I'm kind of glad I got these. I've got nowhere to put them up, but I'm going to keep them because they are in great condition for something from, let's see, how long ago was it? 43 years ago. These have got to be 43 years old and they're in great condition. So I'm quite glad I've got those. So anyway, on to the movie itself. Miss Winter, played by Diana Rigg, is hired by the head of her newspaper company to track down the Assassination Bureau Limited. She comes up with an idea of her own and meets Dragomiloff and suggests that she pay for a particular assassination. She wants Dragomiloff to assassinate himself. He's charmed by this because it's Diana Rigg in 1969. Why wouldn't you be charmed? And in this one, Oliver Reed is having a lot of fun, and is a lot of fun in it. He's charming, he's swashbuckling, he's interesting. He's got his tongue firmly in his cheek, and Diana Rigg's character is a little bit stiff and conservative because, of course, this is Victorian England. Actually, it's not. It's set around 1910, so it's Edwardian England. And the thing that gets me is this was directed, by the way, by Basil Dearden, who directed a whole bunch of great British films, including things like Pool of London, which I've mentioned before on the channel, and also Dead of Night, the 1946 portmanteau movie that started that whole craze. He doesn't really show himself in his direction. He's very competent and amusing in the way he directs the film. The thing, though, is the production design. The Art Nouveau production design in this, fantastic in this one. I think it was by Michael Relf. There are watered silk wallpapers in there. There are beautifully elaborate beds. There are murals on the wall, one of which has Salome with the head of John the Baptist. Probably the best set of all, apart from the headquarters of the Assassination Bureau, is the brothel run by Philippe Noiret's character in Paris. The madam is actually played by Beryl Reid, who you remember from The Killing of Sister George, amongst other things, and she's having a lot of fun in there. There are a lot of English character actors that turn up. There's a lot of European character actors that turn up, each having a little comic turn. There are times when the special effects aren't exactly on point, and there are times when the comedic bits don't quite land, but overall, it's kind of one of those things. In a little way, it plays a bit like a Zucker Abrams Zucker comedy. If a joke doesn't land, there'll be another one along in a minute. We get an international peace conference before the start of World War I, which is being held in Germany, in the mountains of Germany. And the villains have a plan to drop an enormous bomb on it from a Zeppelin. Now, Zeppelins in any movie add about 20% of wonderfulness to it. And this one's kind of well designed. The set on the ground looks good. The model work when the Zeppelin is flying is a bit sketchy. There are a lot of matte lines. There are bits where it just doesn't work, and it's probably either a technological limitation of the time and the resources they had, or a budgetary limitation that makes those bits a little bit iffy. You get a really nice saber battle on board the Zeppelin. They say they can't use guns on board the Zeppelin because it's hydrogen filled. And then they go clashing two bits of steel together in a saber duel. I'm sure the sparks from a saber duel are at least as dangerous to a Zeppelin as gunfire, but we'll leave that aside. It kind of works in context. It's got a beautiful look about it. The music's a little bit odd though. Music's by Ron Grainer, but there's a kind of love song sung towards the end of the film by the Mike Sam Singers, which takes you out of the movie because it's very much done in a 1960s kind of easy listening style, and that doesn't quite work. I should mention also this was based on an incomplete novel by Jack London, which was completed in 1963, well after Jack London was taking a dirt nap, by Robert Fish, and became quite a popular novel at the time. Don't have a copy of that, unfortunately. I'm going to have to try to find one. But just to kind of summarise for this, it's very much one of those 1960s capers about times 50 or 60 years beforehand. The acting is great. The sets and the costumes are fantastic. This, of course, is the other movie that Telly Savalas made with Diana Rigg, apart from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And to be honest, the leading man in this one's a little bit better than George Lazenby was, even though I do like George Lazenby as James Bond. But leaving that aside, I kind of like the interior artwork on this imprint one as well. That kind of works for me as much as the other cover does. It's quite a cheeky little painting of Oliver Reed and Diana Rigg, though that still works well. There's a few extras on this as well. It's in a high definition. Audio commentary by Kevin Lyons, Kim Newman talking about the Assassination Bureau. A tribute to Diana Rigg by Kat Ellinger, who does wonderful audio tributes, who does wonderful visual essays about various female actors on various imprint movies. The theatrical trailer and a photo gallery. Now this one is still available a little bit if you look around. I'm going to see if I can post a link for you. But if you're interested in this, the imprint ones are usually region free. According to a few people I know who are living in other parts of the world, region free stuff. I've kind of fallen down the rabbit hole of getting a lot more imprint ones than I've actually shown on the channel. And I'm ending up with an enormous collection of these things. There are some new things coming out recently that are really great. Things like Cutter's Way has come out on Blu-ray from Imprint. And I picked up a copy of that. I've got a couple more that are on their way as well. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to have quality Blu-ray releases being released here in Australia. It didn't happen previously. There are other companies, of course. Mad Men did some wonderful things. And Umbrella, who are sending me a bunch of movies to review, are doing wonderful work as well. But Imprint and Viavision, the company that Imprint is one of their brands for, are doing wonderful things as well. And they're becoming quite a cult thing and quite valuable, oddly enough. But I like this one. On the cover it says, Zeppelins, bombs, bordellos, burials, you name it, we have it. That's all you need to know to enjoy this movie. So anyway, that's it for this time around. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell and leave a comment. You can also support the channel by going to patreon.com/paleocinema. I've got some more science fiction lined up for the future. I've got the Umbrella stuff coming in, so I may do an unboxing of that and then review those ones because they were kind enough to send them to me. And there are some great movies that I really want to review in that. But anyway, look after yourselves. Stay safe. Up in the Northern Hemisphere in there, use some sunblock. If you're down here, rug up a little bit. Watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Watch a few steampunk movies from the past. And I'll catch you next time.